My top 12 wide receiver rankings for fantasy football. Now, the thing with rankings, they're really interesting. You have a lot of analysts and a lot of people saying, well, what did this guy do last year? Well, he'll probably do something similar this year. And if you're looking at any of the consensus rankings on ESPN or just 1 through 20, you have to do a little bit more research on the deeper level. There's been so many receivers ranked outside the top 20 that finished inside the top 10. Almost every year you had Chris Olave, George Pickens last year. So this is how this list is going to go. There's a lot of names for players that are outside lists that probably shouldn't have any business being inside of the top 12 or wherever. But I wanted to show you kind of where my overall thought process was. It's almost impossible to predict every single receiver stats, especially when you're giving so many players 80 catches, 70 catches. It's almost impossible to predict. But I wanted to at least show you guys, hey, okay, I'm not high on McLaurin after the Diggs signing. Zay Flowers, I do like Rome Odunze. Malik Neighbors is number 29. I think he's boom or bust. Parker Washington, number 20. Nico Collins, Drake London is an interesting thing for me. Nico Collins, I think the Texans offense are just going to spread the ball around a little bit. Drake London has the ability to finish as top 10. I just don't trust it with Tua and a new offense. Instead, Kevin Stefanski, I just feel like it's going to blow up. The Atlanta offense is not going to be anything crazy outside of Bijan. That's just my personal opinion. Rashee Rice, Jalen Waddle, I got Marvin Harrison Jr., and don't want to spoil the top 12, but George Pickens is a big name that missed the top 12 just because I wanted to put some interesting names in there. I think Pickens is a great talent, but to have two receivers on the same team ranked inside the top 10, one of them has to be a wide receiver one. Whether it's Pickens or CeeDee, I just don't think both of them are going to finish top 10. So let's get into this top 12 list and let you guys hear it. Number 12, Devonta Smith. Now the clear-cut wide receiver one on his team. He's set for a 1,000-yard season, 8 touchdowns. I think the thing here is the catches, right? You got George Pickens. He's a jump ball wide receiver. The biggest thing for Devonta Smith is he's going to catch a lot of passes, especially as the number one option. He could even have a better season than this. I think this is kind of just his basic, hey, he should have this season because you look at Jalen Hurts and his chemistry with Devonta Smith over the past. Now there's no A.J. Brown. I think Mekhi Lemon should take some time to get up to speed. This will probably be a run-first offense, but when the ball's in the air, it should be going to Devonta Smith. So you fired their offensive coordinator last year, Kevin Patullo, and obviously that didn't work out. Now you got Sean Mannion. So that'll hopefully be a little bit better for them this season. Number 23, I had to spice it up. Carnell Tate, the rookie wide receiver who's got a big chance to finish as a top 10 wide receiver this year. I had him originally around the 15 to 20 range, but after looking at, obviously that's a big season for him to have. Almost 1,300 yards, 80 catches. I think he's going to be their big play guy. I mean, you could argue Wan'Dale Robinson's going to take some time away from this offense, but you have to look at what Brian Daboll did with Malik Neighbors in his rookie season. He was a wide receiver 6. Carnell Tate was a high draft pick. He's a very talented receiver. He can go up and get it. He's a great route runner. This is what this offense is going to look like. And for a quarterback like Cam Ward, who really didn't have a number one target last year, Calvin Ridley got hurt, Alec Iomeyer, Chimere Dike, they just weren't great enough. So Carnell Tate's a guy who is a breakout contender. We haven't really seen a rookie kind of breakout since Brian Thomas Jr. in 2024. Before that, we obviously know Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase. They had incredible rookie seasons. Why not Carnell Tate in a new offense with, just Brian Daboll? Like, this is going to be an awesome, awesome season for Carnell Tate. So I gave him 80 catches. I feel like the yards are a little high, but I couldn't find any other way to put him top 11. I really wanted him in this top 12 list. Yes, it's a little bit high, but I had to throw a couple of hot takes in here. Number 10, A.J. Brown. I mean, it's pretty obvious that he doesn't have the ceiling to be considered a top 5 wide receiver. He's just not catching 100 passes, and that's kind of, for your reception kind of PPR monsters that are your yak catchers over the middle. Those are the players that are going to be top 5 in this list, maybe even top 7. But A.J. Brown is a very safe deep ball threat. Drake May was one of the best deep ball throwers in the league last year. A.J. Brown's going to be pretty safe. I mean, 1,200 yards, 10 touchdowns. Yes, he's getting older, but I think a new system goes back to Mike Vrabel, that chemistry. He's going to be the number one target in this offense. It's just a matter of how good can he be. I think 10 is a fair spot for him. Number 9. Chris Olave. A lot of people are questioning if this is a right spot to draft Olave. I think if he stays healthy, he just signed that big contract, the Saints offense is going to be very explosive. I think there's a possibility Jordan Tyson could finish top 25. just because those are going to be two very explosive, dynamic offensive players. I do think Jordan Tyson's value, though, can drive Olave down a little bit. I think his yards are a little high that I have him at. Catches too. But I feel like for the first half of the season, Tyler Shuck is going to lean Olave's way. And you can look at it both ways. Jordan Tyson can also be somebody that take pressure off of Chris Olave because of how explosive he is. But he's definitely going to be involved. I like Olave a lot, 1,200 yards, 8 touchdowns. I think he'll be a pretty safe option around the 10-11 range. But like I said, there's a lot of possibilities that can go into a lot of different things. Number 8, I got the one Cowboys receiver. CeeDee Lamb did miss 3 games last year. He was on pace to have a good season. I think there's a possibility both Cowboys receivers could miss the top 10 just because they are so explosive that they have to spread the ball around. And there's also a possibility George Pickens can be now the go-to target because maybe he's more talented than CeeDee Lamb. Granted, it's probably 1A, 1B, but it's a similar situation to Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, to where those two receivers were kind of being drafted top 12, and I would not draft any receivers with so much competition in the wide receiver room. So CeeDee Lamb, George Pickens, I'm not liking. I mean, they could both be fantasy relevant, but I would rather take a wide receiver 1 on maybe a Ladd McConkey or an Emeka Egbuka and take my chances there. I think I kind of inflated CeeDee's numbers a little too much, but I'm hoping, off of that ankle injury, he bounces back. He had a couple drops. He kind of gets back on the same page with Dak. Also, he's been getting roasted in training camp by Caleb Downs for some reason. I'm not sure why. Number 7, this is where the list will start to get interesting. Emeka Egbuka. A lot of people are going to put, your Jaxon Smith-Njigibas, your Justin Jeffersons, your Puka Nacuas. I don't know how I'm not supposed to put these guys on the list. Obviously, they're on the list, but I probably bumped out a couple names. If you just look at kind of the Fantasy Pros rankings really quick, Nico Collins and Drake London were the two big names that I left outside of the top 12. Rashee Rice as well. So it's just a matter of Emeka Egbuka is going as the wide receiver 20. He will finish as a top 12 wide receiver. I'm confident in that 100 times over. Look at the situation. A lot of people are like, oh, Chris Godwin. Chris Godwin is 30 years old. He's coming off a crazy ankle injury. Yeah, last year he didn't play great. Maybe he plays good this year, but I just don't think he's ever going to be the same. I mean, we see these receivers get hurt, and it's like they try and come back, and they're like these old, washed-up veterans. I like Godwin, but Emeka Egbuka is the young, second-year breakout who's going to be the wide receiver 1 on this team. Yes, Godwin is there. He's going to catch some passes, but he's not going to be anything relevant to take away this opportunity for Emeka Egbuka. I mean, this target share is going to be crazy this year, and I think maybe I have him statted a little too high, 97 catches, 1,200 yards, but this is a guy who is at least going to have, 90 catches, 1,000, 2,000, 1,200 yards is what I meant. And I really like Emeka Egbuka this year. I feel like there's no reason he shouldn't finish this high. Now, the next name I could get, ripped in the comments for, but hear me out. Ladd McConkey. There's no more Keenan Allen. If you look at the stats on the Chargers last year, Keenan Allen had 100 targets taken away from this offense. Now you bring in Mike McDaniel. Yes, it's going to be a run team, but Ladd McConkey's the clear alpha wide receiver. Quentin Johnston is more of a touchdown threat. That's why you see McConkey's touchdowns down to 6. He's going to be a big threat. 1,200 yards, maybe it's a little high. 100 catches, maybe it's a little high. But I think the one thing I love about McConkey is his route running, his ability to get open. And that's what I mentioned earlier, those receivers that can run routes in the middle of the field, get open. I like Parker Washington too, but I can't put him higher than 20, mainly because of Brian Thomas Jr., Travis Hunter, and also Travis Hunter just got named as the wide receiver 3 on that team. But the point being is Ladd McConkey is due for a big role. A lot of people drafted him last year and was like, oh, I'm not drafting him again this year because he burned me last year. Well, do the math. He had a great rookie season. Second year, they bring in Keenan Allen. He was just bound to not have such a great season because Keenan took a lot of targets and a lot of yards and a lot of receptions away from him. So now he is the clear number 1 wide receiver. I would be shocked if he didn't finish top 12. I might have him a little high, but those are the two guys, Ladd and Emeka Egbuka, that I think are kind of league winners going around the 3rd round that are just going to sneakily have those wide receiver 1 seasons. That's my personal opinion. All right, now for the big real names that are kind of like, oh, those are obvious. Jaxon Smith-Njgiba, maybe he's a little bit low here at number 5, but I don't think he's going to have the crazy 1,800-yard season that he did last year. And maybe I'm crazy, and he's still a top 3 wide receiver. I don't doubt that. He's probably a pretty safe option considering there's nobody to throw the ball to outside of, Sam Darnold's got JSN, and then it's like Cooper Kupp, Rashid Shaheed. I mean, there are weapons, don't get me wrong, but it's also a new offense. You just got rid of Clint Kubiak. You got rid of your running back and Kenneth Walker. So it's going to be a new system in terms of, okay, how are you going to work off of play action? How can JSN get open? Is it going to be scheme dependent? So, again, it's not a far drop-off. Wide receiver 3, he's ranked at. I got him at number 5. I just don't think he's going to have a crazy, 100-plus crazy reception season, 1,300 yards. I think it's fair. Maybe he has more touchdowns, but I just don't see him finishing ahead of these 4 players. Number 4, Amon-Ra St Brown. I mean, this is Mr. O Reliable. He's been up at the top for a while now. Last year, there was a game where he had like some kind of lower body injury where it was like a muscle injury. I think it was a hamstring. And he played on a short week Thursday night. He was doubtful on the scouting report. You almost never see a player doubtful. All of a sudden, they get activated to playing. So he's going to fight through injury. He is an absolute grinder. I mean, he is going to play in any game that he can, and that's what you kind of want to see is that toughness, that grit. And obviously, we know that from St. Brown, but I don't know how much ceiling he does have, considering he is kind of the yards after catch. I mean, you kind of leave that to Jameson Williams, but you look at this player and you're like, okay, safe over the middle, going to catch a lot of passes, going to get a decent amount of yards, 12, 1,300 yards, 10 touchdowns, touchdown monster. I mean, enough said about St. Brown. He's going to be a monster this year. Number 3, Puka Nacua. Now, this was made before the injury update that happened today, as well as the potential suspension allegations in terms of what happened in the offseason. So this is probably subject to change. I feel like Puka is still going to be your phototypical guy unless, injury, of course, will knock on the table for him. But yeah, I mean, top 5, I personally wouldn't draft Puka just because of Devonta Adams. He had a great season last year. He's probably going to fall off. Not to say that's a bad thing, but it's like if you have such a dominant season, whether you're a wide receiver, quarterback, it's almost inevitable that you're not going to match those numbers. I mean, sometimes you just have such a career season like Cooper Kupp did with a triple crown that it's almost impossible to live up to, the 2,000-yard season that Saquon Barkley did. Not to say that Puka didn't have a crazy season last year, but, 1,500 yards I think is fair. I just don't know how I can put him much higher. I feel like I honestly have him a little too high for how I'm explaining him for what he did. All right, number 2, one of my favorite wide receivers. I know it took a while. Justin Jefferson. Everyone is like, I don't know how to feel about this guy. Do we forget he's one of the greatest wide receivers in the league? I almost said, all the time. We're not there yet, but he is probably still the best wide receiver in the league. He had a down year last year. Yes, I think the mental game really frustrated him because that was the first season we saw him have kind of some growing pains. Sam Darnold, we just saw quarterbacks come in and succeed with Justin Jefferson. You saw it with Kirk Cousins. You saw it with Sam Darnold. You saw it with, a couple of the backups. Like last year, he was mentally annoyed. Like after J.J. McCarthy sailed him a few times, it got to a point to where Justin Jefferson was almost dropping passes because he wasn't expecting the ball to be there sometimes. So just miscommunications. I think in a new season, you got a new veteran quarterback, Kyler Murray. There's going to be a lot of chemistry there. He had a bad season last year. The bounce back is inevitable for Jefferson. If number 2 is too high, yeah, obviously it's a little high, but you have to have some bold predictions. And I think Justin Jefferson is still Justin Jefferson, and we're not going to be questionable because, it's the Vikings offense. I don't know what Kyler's going to do. Stop that. He's one of the best receivers in the league. If I throw him the ball, he's going to get it. But point being is I love Justin Jefferson. He's going to finish top 3. That's where I got him in my rankings. And number 1, we got to go with the obvious here. Joe Burrow stays healthy. This guy could have a 2,000-yard season. I kind of kept it very baseline. I didn't want to have a crazy big number that really didn't make sense to me, like an 1,800-yard season. I'm sure it'll happen this year. But the way I looked at it, I was like, I just don't. I want to keep it pretty similar. I want to keep all the numbers around the same for a lot of these players, and I feel like it's hard to look at a whole list of players and be like, oh my gosh, you have them pretty much all around the same. Why does everybody have 70 catches, 1,000 yards? And that's probably granted, but for the same time, those are the top 12 wide receivers for fantasy football. I will go ahead and show the full list. That way we kind of went through a lot of big names, but let me just go ahead and show you everything. That way it's a little bit more mapped out visually. So you got Jamar Chase, number 1, Justin Jefferson, Puka Nacua, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jaxon Smith-Njgiba, Ladd McConkey, 6, Emeka Egbuka, 7, CeeDee Lamb, 8, Chris Olave, 9, A.J. Brown, 10. Carnell Tate's a little bit of a bold one, number 11, and then 12 is Devonta Smith, as well as a lot of other names. It really comes down to predictions are very difficult to make, and I just kind of wanted to be out there with, doing something different instead of just having, these guys have something similar rankings-wise because of last season. Copy and paste never works, and obviously injuries are unpredictable, but that's just kind of how the road goes sometimes. So thank you, everyone, so much for hanging out. Those have been the top 12 fantasy football wide receivers. Let me know what you think in the comments. Who are you drafting? Who are you fading? And stay tuned for fantasy content all season long. It's been Mike Zanetti, the Big Z Breakdown, and we'll see you in the next video.